I think just my schooling experience, the typical like millennial experience where it's like, you're awesome, you're special, you've got this awesome thing to contribute. The world revolves around you. Like, I just felt like, just almost the main character of life, just by virtue of how much the self-esteem stuff was pumped into us. And I kind of got to the end of school, had put no effort in, was super lazy, and then just felt like almost like dropped by life. And I remember just thinking like, oh man, like I wasn't suicidal, but like I do remember driving along one day as I was delivering a pizza and just seeing like all these like cars drive past me, and just like all these different like businesses with like stickers on the sides of their vehicles. And I remember just thinking like, man, if I just like stopped existing today, this city would just go on completely as usual. Like, the world is not completely about me. People are doing things and I'm just here doing nothing.
That's good. That's a really, really great revelation that you are not the main character.
Yeah.
If anything, we're a side character, if anything.
Absolutely. I'm the one that gets saved by Jesus. I'm definitely not the hero.
Welcome back to the Jesus Magnet. Today we've got Phil from the Fill Me In podcast. He is a fellow Kiwi in Tauranga, New Zealand, that lovely city where my wife actually grew up from. And he is here to share his testimony and a bit about his podcast. Really keen to hear all about it. So Phil, how you doing?
Yeah, doing good, man. Excited to be chatting. Nice to hear another Kiwi accent out there in the podcasting world. Pretty rare thing.
Absolutely. I get that a lot, actually. And most people, when they come on the show, they're like, so you're an Australian podcast, right? It's like, oh well.
Dude, I'm gonna be in America later this year, and I'm really looking forward to being the guy with the novel accent. Haven't experienced that much, but just gonna enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people there's Australia, so there's New Zealand, we got the North Island, then the South Island, and then that tiny little island to the west. That's Australia.
That's it.
Yeah, so good. So let's kind of talk about your journey. We'll rewind a little bit. Before you were pastoring, before you were podcasting, how did you first encounter Jesus personally? And have you always walked in the faith?
Right. Yeah, it's a tricky one, eh? So like with the Fill Me In podcast, we're talking to people that mainly grew up not in Christian homes. And that's like not my story. Like I come from basically the opposite end of the spectrum with that. So I come from, very Christian home. My parents, both Christian. They both come from families with, 4 siblings, all of them Christian, all Christian grandparents, both sides of the family in the Open Brethren movement. So my parents like literally met at a Christian camp in Queenstown of all places, just to link it back on the other side of the lake, probably from where you were at. I don't know if you know that camp. But yeah, so Christian influence as far back as I can go. Was raised in it. Public school, all that kind of thing. So it was a little bit of a blend, a little bit of an overlap, I guess, in my upbringing. So like through my schooling, mainly not Christian friends, sort of like that you hang with socially and that kind of thing. But on the weekends, like in church every Sunday. It was the kind of family where my parents would like pick us up. If there's like a sleepover or something on a Saturday night, we'd get picked up like 9:30 on Sunday to be at church. Like, it was very much like a handful of times I would have missed it. So yeah.
How did you view God though? Like most people that grow up in a Christian household, either that's a very religious thing. That's just what we do as a family. And I don't really question it. And we just go to church. And I almost see it as that's where my friends are, with my auntie and uncles, my grandparents. How did you view your church? Was it something more like, no, I actually believe in this stuff, even as a young kid? Or was it just something you did as a family, more on a religious aspect, I suppose?
Yeah, no, like I definitely always believed in God. Like, I don't think there was a time that I can't remember a time where I didn't ever believe in it. And to be honest, always, as far as I can remember, I'm one of those people with a pretty good memory. Like I remember being pretty for it, being fascinated by it, finding it pretty interesting. I remember like as a pretty young kid, just one Saturday morning sitting around on my like lounge floor trying to, think through like foreknowledge and free will, and if God knows that I'm about to move my hand there, then can I kind of like psych the Lord and actually not do it? And I think about stuff like that when I was like 5 or 6 years old. Honestly,
I still think about that stuff.
Yeah, dude, it's hopefully slightly more advanced than my 5-year-old self, but not much more, to be honest. It's super interesting. Yeah, so I always was for. I think for me, the tricky thing, and it's actually similar to kind of what you were saying as we were talking in the previous hour, just wrestling with assurance of salvation, and how do you know that you're in, and what does how does grace mix with free will? Like, if we're saved by grace, and if Jesus come to pay for my sins, and I'm in through effectively surrendering to him or receiving him, or we would have said like asking him into your heart, that was sort of the jargon, then what does that mean for like how I should live before him? So like I'd go to different Christian events where someone would be doing a altar call or doing a talk or whatever, and you'd hear them talk about like fruit, or not, probably not fruit, but that came later for me, getting my head around that. But they talk about like repentance and good works, and I'd always be like, well, if it's completely for free, and you're saved by grace alone, like where does this stuff fit in? But then I guess you'd see parts of your life where you're not fully living in step with it. Nothing too drastic necessarily. And you'd think, okay, well, I want to do the right thing. Your conscience is sort of eating at you a little bit, and probably, yeah, just not know how to square that circle. Yeah, that was the main thing for me. Like, I remember probably one time as like
Sorry,
12
can
or
you just
13.
reiterate that? I'm a little lost on what you're saying.
So basically, I wrestled with the relationship between how salvation can be completely free, but then there's, on the other hand, like this expectation that you would do the right thing, and how that can even make sense, because it sounds like you're undercutting the freeness of it if you're saying you've got to do all this stuff. So I guess logically where I went was to go, okay, like doing good stuff is nice, but it's kind of not necessary or whatever. But yeah, I like, my conscience wouldn't probably let me have it that easy though. Like I knew probably deep down it was a little more complicated than that. So I remember just being unsure if I was saved, probably throughout my childhood, asking, praying the quote unquote sinner's prayer a stack of times. And I remember one time like asking for like a Gideon type sign as I was going off to sleep one night, like, oh Lord, when I wake up in the morning, can this thing in my room be this way if I am a Christian, and if I'm not, let it, things like that. So that was sort of where it was for me. And it got trickier, I would say, as you come of age, you get into high school, you got friends getting into more and more shenanigans and stuff, and you kind of like, you feel that pull, like, okay, that sounds sort of fun, but then knowing you're not really supposed to, and then conversations sort of follow with, especially when some of these people are like raised in the church with you, and they're getting up to stuff. You're like, well, what's going on there, man? And how does that fit with your belief in Jesus? And all these kind of conversations, you really had to wrestle with that. And so, yeah, just a lot of confusion as to how to put all that stuff together was, I guess, the key problem for me growing up. But overall, yeah, was very for it.
How do you still, like, is that still something that you wrestle with today when it comes to your relationship with Christ? And if I'm supposed to have this relationship with Christ and it's a free gift, then and Lord, if I'm really saved, move my desk table or something like that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I think it was something with a lava lamp or something, like where the wax was sitting or something like that. But so I had this like pretty wild moment when I was 18. And to be honest, I'm not sure like exactly when it was that I was like saved, but I suspect it was here. It may have been way earlier. Like I do remember praying to like decisively, with my mum one time when I was like 6 to become a Christian. But I think probably the reality of it sort of sunk in for me as an 18-year-old. So this is, for me, it's like my 2011 first year out of high school. I was like super lazy throughout school, made no plans for the future really. Get to the end of high school, everyone leaves town, and I'm just sort of like me and a few other guys sort of with no plan, just sort of chilling out, and getting into some shenanigans and that kind of thing. And just wrestling with different I was at a point where I was probably straddling like different Christian communities, different ideas talking in my ear, and I was just wrestling with that. And one day I was round at a friend's house at his flat, and we're just yarning Christian stuff and probably being a little bit irreverent in how we were doing it. And one of my friend's flatmates just overheard us talking, and he came and sat down with us, and he was just like, awesome dude, really friendly guy, but this was just like the most serious conversation I'd ever had in my life. And it was like Christianity just had like this weightiness to him that was just kind of different than anyone else I'd ever met. And he kind of talked about some of these things with, I think,
So
probably
was
like the
he a
Jew.
Christian,
He
or was
was, yeah.
he asking questions? Okay.
No, this guy was he was a Christian and had been taking it pretty seriously for a number of years, and so he just kind of sat down with us. Didn't have to, but he just kind of overheard us talking and thought he'd jump in on the conversation basically. And yeah, he was great. Like it just really got me thinking. And he ended up putting on I don't know if you've seen this. It kind of went viral among people sort of roughly my age, but Paul Washer's shocking youth message. Have you ever seen that?
No.
It's wild.
I'll look it up.
It's absolutely wild. Yeah. So he chucks that on, and basically it's this dude, Paul Washer, who I since got to meet. It was really cool. Came to New Zealand about 10 years ago, but he's preaching at this like massive, from what I can tell from the video, super grainy film quality and stuff, but it's like 2002, and it's this like Baptist youth conference thing in the States, and he preaches from Matthew 7, talking about the last day. Many will come to me on that day and will say, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name? And he'll say to them, depart from me, I never knew you. And so he just preaches this like the most convicting thing you've ever heard on that passage. And he's sort of contrasting, there's like two ways in Matthew 7. There's a narrow road and the wide road, and there's two kinds of trees, one that has thorns and one that has fruit. And all the, there's two kinds of prophets, a true prophet and a false prophet. And for me, what like it devastated me, because I just felt like, man, I'm the wrong kind of tree, and I'm on the wrong kind of road. And the thing that was just massively clarifying for me was him talking about good works being fruit. And just like a light bulb went off me. I was like, okay, so like as a Christian, I am meant to do things, meant to do good things. It's essential that I do good things, but like these are evidence of being saved rather than some meritorious thing I have to do to like get in the door. So like they're there and they're important and they're intrinsic to being a Christian, but they're not the cause of your faith, and they're not the cause of you being accepted.
Salvation.
Yeah. And it was revolutionary for me. So I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. So I just remember I walked away from watching that. I was Domino's pizza delivery guy at the time, and I left my friend's flat, and I just kind of prayed like, Jesus, I am literally stuck. I cannot save myself. I can't be the kind of person that this is calling for. I need you to save me. And yeah, I think that for me was like the decisive moment. Just it lit a fuse. It's been different since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And when you say it lit a fuse, did you feel different? Did you what is that amazing grace? The world grew strangely dim. Did anything change in your like inner man, I suppose?
Yeah, dude. Like I can honestly say, like I've talked to a lot of people about this since, and it's been a bit of my time as a teenager, like doing camp ministries, going to camps, either like as a guy just enjoying the program, or sometimes like as a leader for younger people. And people would often refer to like this camp high. You get together, you got everyone's feeding off each other, and you're like, this term we're going to go back to school and we're going to live for Jesus, and it's going to be real. We're going to read our Bible and we're going to pray. And then it's like 4 days in and it just kind of fizzles. Like the way I would describe it is like, dude, I just feel like I've been on a camp high since like 2011. Like I love Jesus. I want to know him more. I want to walk with him. I love his word. As soon as it happens, I just give me a book, give me a YouTube video. Like I just want to learn stuff. I want to follow Jesus. I want to help him be known more. I just want to serve him. So yeah, that's not to say there wasn't, still things to learn and a lot of confusion I had to sort of work through and that kind of thing. But yeah, definitely. Like it was crazy. Still feel it today.
What would you say would be like the toughest part of your conversion? But not even a conversion, but like that revelation that happened. Has there been anything, you said that you've been riding this wave, this high? Has there been anything that's tried to throw you off?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think initially part of like realizing, oh my goodness, okay, like fruit is this like essential aspect of the Christian life. And I probably overdid it, but I think in substance, I was not wrong. But that had implications for not only how I live, but then just like what I would be saying to the Christians around me, particularly people that I would say, judging from what this text seems to be saying, are like Christian in name only. But in terms of like the reality of it, there's no desire to follow Christ. So yeah, that doesn't make you a ton of friends, and there were friendships that, kind of didn't really do super well beyond there. Kind of that was a cul-de-sac for that friendship, and that was kind of the end of it. That was hard, especially when you think like, oh no, I'm fairly certain this is what Christ is saying. So yeah, I would say probably that. And then I guess there's been a stack of things along the way, man. You have these little moments where you're learning things. And
you sort of like cut off all these dead branches, I suppose, off your life that weren't producing any fruit for the gospel, inclusive of friendships that you've had for years and years.
Yeah, well,
they just die off naturally.
Not intentionally. Yeah, they kind of died off. Like I was naive, man. I was just like, oh, bro, this is amazing. Like this is so life-giving. This is bringing so much clarity. I got to tell everyone about this, And then turns out, there are a few people, and honestly, some of the closest, most cherished friendships I have to this day are people from that time period who I talked about these things with, and they're like, oh my goodness, that's true. And that was really special. But yeah, I think I was naive to expect that everyone would just go, oh, right, awesome. Like this life where you have to do what Jesus wants you to do. Awesome. It's like, no, I like the idea of him forgiving me, but I don't know if I necessarily want to like live with the Christian ethic or whatever. So yeah, you had to learn that. And to be fair, there were ways in which I probably wasn't explaining it the most helpfully, and so I've had to learn since then. This is how you have a conversation, and this is how you treat people, and all that kind of stuff. You grow.
I mean, even recently in my life, I had this really, really great friend growing up, and then basically didn't see her for. She was a real tomboy. Then didn't see her for like at least 10 years, and then only last year reconnected, ran into her at the supermarket of all places, and she had been basically my atheist friend. And especially during my story, when I'm questioning God, she was she was Dawkins in my life, or Christopher Hitchens, and she was, basically talking all the arguments against. It just didn't hold strong enough for me. And then, I ended up thinking that there was basically it was more likely that God was real than not real. So I'm just going to lean on that. And then I did end up having a big moment with Christ, which confirmed that. But I remember running into her just last year. And like you said, sometimes friendships they die off when they've got a different spirit, I suppose.
Yeah.
And almost like a resistance to the compatibility of friendship sometimes can happen there. And
sure.
and I ran into her, and she's got a beard better than me now, and has gone full transgender. And I remember catching up with her, and we ended up talking again. She's obviously still an atheist, and it was actually really interesting because she's gone down this path, which, when I was able to describe it to her, it's basically delusion. Where she believes she is something that she's not. And it was actually it was almost the fruit that you're talking about. This is the fruit of her theology, of what she was constantly battling growing up. And it has basically completely deceived the way that her worldview is. Something that is not. A man is a woman, or a woman is a man. And I know this is a touchy subject, but
for sure,
I'm allowed to. This is on the Jesus Magnet.
Yeah. No. You're good, man. You're safe with me. Yeah, totally. And I think that's true. Like everything has a fruit. Like all sets of ideas have consequences, and yeah, that's something I've seen over. I mean, the relatively short, I guess, course of my Christian life is like Christianity is beautiful. It's not only true, but it's aesthetically beautiful. It does cause humans to flourish in a multifaceted way.
Good,
yeah, he's come to give us abundant life.
Love, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fruit that is so tangible in almost everything that you touch. Uh, it's good for your kids, it's good for your wife, it's good for
Totally.
your, your discipline,
Mm.
and good for your sanity. When you, like I said, in your when I was a guest on your show,
Yeah.
Fill Me In podcast, I mentioned that we were in that earthquake,
Mm.
and even in chaos, you have something to grasp onto. I
Mm.
can grab Christ,
Yeah.
and where people that are lost and they don't have that, when chaos happens, it doesn't just rock the boat
Right.
flips and they start drowning.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so
Totally.
it's cool that you sort of follow fruit, which is
Mm.
I love that in a pastor. I really do. I think that's a really great attribute to have.
Yeah, man. Well, that's the aim, eh? And it is a beautiful thing. Like you got people that are coming to be part of this community, and you can see God at work in their life. And yeah, I see myself as, I guess, and yeah, to use the scriptural language, like an under shepherd of Jesus, and I want to help cultivate them, and I want to help them flourish, and I want to help them see more and more of that growing. And it's just the most exciting thing ever when you see it. You just see Christians acting Christian, and you just go, "Oh my goodness! Like you are the real deal, and Jesus is at work in you, and this is awesome.
Mm.
It's beautiful. It's the coolest thing in the world."
Yeah. Yeah. So you were at this point in your life, I've gathered that you work for Domino's.
I did at
Um,
that point, yes.
how did you get from there to being a bishop, pastor, reverend,
Yeah, yeah.
priest?
all of the yeah,
Monk.
all Christians are priests, but yeah, the other ones, to be sure. That year I was just wasting my time, and like to this day I would say one of the worst years of my life. Like I was super miserable for most of it, but God used it, and he got through and worked in my life, and I think it was super important. So yeah, I get to the end of that
What
year and
was
go, oh
so
my,
bad about it?
like I think just the my schooling experience, the typical like millennial experience where it's like you're awesome, you're special, you've got this awesome thing to contribute. The world revolves around you. Like I just felt like you know, just almost the main character of life, just by virtue of how much the self esteem stuff was pumped into us. And I kind of got to the end of school, had put no effort in, was super lazy, and then like just felt like almost like dropped by life. And I remember just thinking like, oh man, like I wasn't suicidal, but like I do remember driving along one day as I was delivering a pizza and just seeing like all these like cars drive past me and just like all these different like businesses with like stickers on the sides of their vehicles. And I remember just thinking like, man, if I just like stopped existing today, this city would just go on completely as usual. Like the world is not completely about me. People are doing things and I'm just here doing nothing.
Oh, that's
Um,
good. That's a really,
yeah,
really great revelation that you are not the main character.
yeah,
If
yeah.
anything, we're a side character, if anything. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I'm the one that gets saved by Jesus. I'm definitely not the hero. So yeah, and I think just yeah, have no purpose. I was just in super like bad like cycles. So I'd go to bed at like 3 a.m. every night, and my shift would start at like 11 the next day or whatever. So I couldn't get out of bed in the morning, and yeah, I was just miserable. Like I needed to live for something. I had no purpose, and
What
the
changed?
idea. Sorry.
What changed?
Well, I think it's just meeting Jesus, and like I didn't know exactly like what. I mean, I was young, and I didn't have a huge idea of like what kind of could be done, but I just I got to do something, and so I got to the end of that year, and I had failed year 13, which is final year of school in New Zealand for anyone listening who's not a Kiwi, and that kind of limits some of your opportunities if you want to go study or anything like that, but a connection my mother had worked at a teachers college, like a Christian teachers college over here in Tauranga, and she had mentioned, oh, Phil's really good with young people. Like, look at all the stuff he's done at the camps. He should train to be a teacher. And I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, may as well. Got nothing else to do, so I did that for 3 years. Did my teacher training from 2012 to 2014. So did that, got my teaching degree, which was great. And was a
You and I
primary school.
got more. You and I got
Is that
more in
right?
common than. Yeah, you and I got more in common than you think. I
Unreal.
also went to teachers college.
Is that right?
Yeah.
South Island?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So did that, but through the whole time, like, and I since got some theology straightened out about like work and how work fits into how a Christian should look at the world. But at the time, I just struggled because I was like, I know the world needs to be saved. People need to be saved. The gospel needs to go out. The Bible needs to be known and understood. And I'd struggle when I was having to write some like essay on pedagogy or something, or like on maths. And I just thought, man, I could be studying scripture right now. I could be reading some book of theology right now. And every like spare second I had, I would be. I'd just be like just hitting books and all this sort of stuff. So get to the end of teachers college and wasn't able to find like a full-time gig straight away. So I was like, okay, I'm really keen to do something ministry related down the track. I enrolled in like a Bible college by correspondence up in Auckland. So that year, straight after teachers college, I was sort of like relief teaching and doing full-time study, and then finished that year off, started a master's program with the Bible college as well. So was working through that, and then ended up sort of in the middle of that degree, got a full-time teaching job at a local Christian school in Rotorua, which is my hometown. And yeah, so working away there, having the best time, got a bunch of my theology straightened out about like the value of work. And, I just had struggled to see anything valuable unless like a soul was directly being saved right in that thing. And I still obviously think that stuff's very important, but I understand, I think, work far more accurately now. So I was very satisfied in that work. I was loving it. Great school. Got to talk to the kids about Jesus a lot. Really enjoyed teaching the content. I had kids that did well and were learning. And it was really, really cool, really rewarding. And so we get to 2020, and we all went into 2020 thinking we knew what we were doing that year. And for me, part of my plan that year was to scale my teaching back to 3 days a week, and I was going to finish my master's degree off. So it's the year that you write a thesis, basically. So I'm like, okay, well, I've done a bunch of the pre-reading already, so I'm just going to hit this not dissertation, but hit this thesis real hard in these 2 days off in the week I've got. We'll teach for the rest of the week, and that was the plan for that year. Ended up being COVID and all of that kind of stuff, so was stuck at home a ton more than I was thinking. Made the thesis a lot easier to write in some ways and a lot harder. Just very different obstacles. Got finished that year, finished the degree, got my master's in applied theology, and then we get to the end of 2021, and the Labor government at the time was implementing the traffic light system and all that kind of stuff. I had just come on towards the end of 2021 as one of like the lay elders at the church, so I wasn't working for the church or anything. Had just come on there, and then I found myself out of a job at the end of 2021 because I just wasn't ready to get the Pfizer vaccine. I'm not one of those people that has like a super, super strong opinion on it one way or the other. I just knew like I didn't want it yet.
You didn't get vaccinated?
I didn't. No.
No, me neither.
And yeah, and I'm not like an apologist for the vaccine. I don't know. Like it's not my,
it didn't seem required at the time,
Totally.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I was young. I run a lot. I'm fairly sure I'll be pretty much fine if I get hit with this. So like, I'd rather just get that in my body. Yeah. You're a runner as well.
I ran once.
Yeah, that's good. That counts. You're in the club. Yeah, I'm always interested if someone's into that. But yeah, so the church was like, okay, well, man, like you've just come onto the eldership, you've just finished your studies. Would you be keen to come and be the full-time dude here? You can do the bulk of the preaching and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I did, and I've been there since. So we moved over to Tauranga that summer, and this is our 4th year here, and having a blast, man. Loving it. It is awesome. It is so rewarding. It's so beautiful. I love what I do.
So before we get into the podcast, I want to talk a little bit about church life.
Cool.
So when what do you see right now, where like with God in New Zealand, especially with young people? You're a very young pastor, which is really cool to see.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, how do you see God kind of working within the young people in New Zealand?
Yeah, there's a lot of different angles to attack that one from, eh? Like I've been encouraged by, particularly you see it like online with different commentary and stuff, like a renewed interest. I read the Wilberforce studies. I don't know if you come across them. Every 5 years they do like a study on like faith and belief in New Zealand, and so they kind of will research and divide it up by generations and stuff. So yeah, there's interest, and I'm encouraged by. I mean, Kiwis are they're pretty standoffish in general. Maybe that's not the right language. Like they're not super religious, at least in a Christian sense on paper. Like a lot of people will say it's pretty rough soil here, but at the same time, like people are surprisingly open and will talk to you and we'll have conversations and that kind of thing. I think what sticks out to me is just like the way New Zealand truly is a post-Christian society. I've gotten out and done a bit of like street evangelism and that kind of thing, talking to people that are, would be between like 5 or 10 years younger than me. And just like the amount of, a biblical worldview they have left is just like almost nothing. It's just like basic things that their grandparents, even if their grandparents weren't firmly committed believers, like they would still know this stuff. And these guys just like literally no knowledge. So it's like you're almost back in the Roman Empire again, like just building it up from square one.
No knowledge as in when you say, I don't know, you meet somebody on the street and you're like, have you heard about Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
And most will say, well, I say his name when something freaks me out. Like, is that basically the response? Is, yeah, I know it as a cussing word?
Yeah, pretty much. Or just super basic question, like just, I don't know, things that you would like assume in a culture where the social imaginary is sort of largely like informed by Christianity. Like you'd know who Noah was, or you'd know, judge not, or just sort of basic illusions that a lot of people would kind of have, just nothing. So there's, there'd be questions about like, well, what is sin or something like that, which,
how do you
okay,
navigate?
let me break it down.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, well, yeah. So you just got to break that stuff down, and you can't be like super scripted about how the conversations go. Like it could go anywhere, and you got to be kind of know your faith well enough to know roughly how to reel it back in and sort of bring it to where you want it to take it. So yeah, that's my observation there. In terms of church, like that's sort of out there in church. Where I mean, I was at a preaching course on the weekend, and they're asking, information about the different churches. And I like one of the things I said was the median age of our church is probably my age. So it's pretty crazy. There's people that are older than me and, decades older and stuff. There's a lot of people probably like in their late 20s. Like that's sort of where it mostly sits. And it's cool, man. Like it is crazy because it's no bells and whistles. Like it's pretty simple. Like we get together, we sing songs, we have like we do a liturgy, so we have a bit where we're called to sort of consider our own sins that week and then confess them to God, and then we get reminded of the gospel promises that he's covered our sins. We have a time of prayer. I preach the Bible for like 45 minutes, and we take the Lord's Supper and we go on our merry way. So it's pretty simple. But yeah, for whatever reason, there's a bunch of people that in that sort of age group that want to be part of it, and we're really grateful, man. It's super cool.
Is there any topics that you find really difficult to do in church? Like today, things are very hypersensitive when it comes to like LGBTQ stuff, or even politicians or anything like that. There's some things that you just stay away from, or are you quite inclusive with a lot of the world's, I suppose, what the world's going through? When I go online and I start scrolling, a lot of that sort of stuff comes up, but a lot of the time, most churches will avoid those topics, partly because they're unnecessary to the gospel. But
Sure.
but yeah, do people come up to you with those sort of questions a lot?
Yeah, big time. So I mean, part of like any pastor will say, like part of just being in a church community and having that sort of role is you're having real raw conversations with people about just the hard things in their lives. And so yeah, like that's definitely there. In terms of the preaching, like we typically preach through books. So like we're just finishing like one of our new pastors will be doing the final one this Sunday, but we've just preached through 1 Corinthians 15. So we've called it like 15 from 15. We did
so
15
good to hear.
sermons. So yeah, that's what we do. And so there's hard stuff in that, he's calling people fools, and he's talking about baptism of the dead and all this sort of stuff. So we don't skip over any of that. We work through it. My first summer in church, it's not often we do a topical thing, but given all like the traffic light stuff and how on fire everything was, we did like a 6-week series on how like church, we called it church and state. And it was just like, how should Christians think about politics, and how should Christians relate to other Christians with different politics than them? And when is the government like absolutely crossing the line to the point that a Christian cannot go with it at all? And can I ever disobey the government? Like, so we were doing sermons on all those kinds of different things, that was crazy, like first series to do. Preach Genesis, like sexual sin, or all that kind of stuff. We like the thing for me, man, honestly, is maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know. I've just kind of gone like, God's sovereign. The world's pretty crazy, but I know ultimately he declares the end from the beginning. I'm just going to say stuff, and it might offend some people. It could get me in trouble. I'll let the Lord kind of see to the details with that, but let's just sort of go for it and see how it goes. So awesome, that's basically where we're at the moment, and it's going all right so far.
If you never talk about it, you offend people that go, "Why aren't you talking about it?" And if you do talk about it, then you offend people that don't want you to talk about it. So
exactly, man. And the nature of Christianity is that like it will have to offend your sensibilities at some point, because the whole thing we're wanting you to do is like despair of any hope in yourself and reach out to Christ. And so you have to, like, you're failing unless you're making them see they can't fix it themselves. And so yeah, like that's where you got to go, and that's not super fun if you don't want to hear it. Yeah, like it's the nature of it. And even like one of the best tips I've heard for preaching comes from Charles Haddon Spurgeon, and he'll talk about like, people typically talk about sin in this kind of like kind of undefined, like mushy, kind of fuzzy category, just say sin. And instantly if that's where you stop, where people will go with it is they'll make that be about someone else. They'll put everyone else into that category and sort of give themselves a pass. And so you got to be a bit more specific and actually like name the things you're talking about, so that people will go, oh, far out, that's me. Like I'm the dude he's talking about. It's like you are the man, like Nathan the prophet almost. And so yeah, like there can be offense that comes with that. By and large, though, I mean our people have been awesome. We had, I mean, every church kind of has fun stories. We had a thing a couple of years ago where, I don't know, someone was in the church service and just kind of stood up in the middle of it and walked out and kind of sarcastically went, "Cool church, guys," and then just like walked out, and we're like, okay, like, that's fine. We can handle that. That's all good. I didn't lose any sleep over it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's good. I like to hear people. I mean, I would hate to be a pastor, to be honest. Okay. I've got a fear of public speaking. Anyway, I don't view this as public speaking because I can't see.
I was about to ask.
It's kind of a sneaky way to get around it.
Yeah. But modern problems require modern solutions.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. I hope God never calls me into that sort of role.
He probably will, just because we're saying this.
Maybe, but yeah, I can pray against it. When you're doing your sermons, mm-hmm. and you're going through the seasons of the year, you got mm-hmm. summer, winter, autumn, spring. Do you find that, especially seasonally with winter, it gets cold and people are more depressed during the winter? Is that something that you are conscious of during the year, of like external things that might affect your congregation?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think one of the best things about our ecclesiology, or I don't know if that makes sense to your listeners, like just like structure of church, doctrine of the church, is like with us, we don't have people preaching unless they are either elders in our church or elders of another church. But by and large, the preaching is from our guys, me included, who know our people, are talking to our people, have a small group over in their house once a week. But yeah, on top of that, just have connections. So you kind of, how people are doing, you're talking to people, you're aware of the struggles and stuff. So all of that's taken into account as you're preaching and as you're writing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's not like some like artificial, okay, you're there over there, I don't know anything about you and I'm just going to talk at you. Like it is taking into account that stuff. So yeah, seasons can be one, but there's all kinds of things, man. Like life's rough, and the older you get, there's just increasing complications. And that's the beautiful thing about Christianity. It's like, just to link back to what you're saying about the person you met from your youth. It's like it is a very hope-giving way of looking at the world. Like we know God's behind the scenes, working all things together for good for those who love Him. The end of the story is good, and we're all heading to Canaan. We're all heading to the Promised Land. All of that stuff in the Old Testament's like a type of the work that Jesus, as the greater Moses, is doing for us. He's taking us to the new world, and so it's good news, man. Like there's good news for weary people. There's good news for discouraged people. Christianity is good news, and so it's definitely great to see it being brought to bear on all of life's struggles, man.
Speaking of news, let's go into the Fill Me In podcast.
Okay,
where did that
sure.
get started?
Yeah, so it's a bit random. It's crazy. Like I love that we're talking because obviously doing similar things. Although as I said on when you came on mine, I got a stack to learn, man. It's cool. Just seeing all your tips and some of the tech you're using. For me, like I've enjoyed podcasts for years. Like it's basically since I got saved, I was listening to stuff. And it feels like almost like in the last 3 or 4 years, podcasts just became huge. Like everyone was all of a sudden listening to them and all these different, like, it's a crime podcast, thriller podcast. It's like, oh, what? Like this is just like this. It's a medium of choice now. Like some people only make their this content on podcasts. So I was kind of like, oh, that's cool. Like, for years, I'd always sort of wanted to do something. And I guess the world I sort of inhabit, like people love theology, they love nerding out. I love that stuff. Like I read a lot. And so I love thinking about stuff, but there's like, I mean, dude, like there's so many reformed theology podcasts out there. It's like infinite. I saw a meme one time where it's like a Buzz Lightyear zoomed in on his face, and the caption's like, "I'm going to make a interesting reformed theology podcast that'll be for that'll be young and cool, and people want to listen to it." And then it zooms out, and it's him like in his box. I don't know if you've seen Toy Story 2, and it's like the whole, like just the whole aisle full of people doing the exact same thing. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that. Like I don't have anything so unique to say in that realm that hasn't been done or isn't being done. But I'm like, okay, what do I like? And one thing I've just found super enjoyable over my whole Christian life is just talking to people about their stories. Like someone gets saved, particularly if they're not from the upbringing that I've had. I'm like just pulling up a chair and I'm going, tell me, like, how did this happen, and what was the order of events, and like how did you go from presumably like secular presuppositions to embracing faith? Like just tell me this. I want to hear this. So there's that. And then I think probably just getting frustrated with like the rise of like deconstruction type stories, or like hashtag church hurt or whatever. And I'm sure like there's some areas where the church does hurt people when it's not being all it could be. Like I'm not denying that, but it felt like a bunch of the stories were a little bit thin, and it was just like, okay, it's pretty convenient that you guys all end up wanting to just do all the same sins now that you've deconstructed and all this stuff. So I'm like, I'd be keen to do something that's like the opposite of that, like a construction podcast where people are coming in and talking about how they found Christ, and then I think as well for me, and I don't know if you sort of resonate with this, but I think a lot of Christians like just struggle to share their faith. They feel discouraged, like, are my actions actually going to make a dent at all? Like, is this going to actually impact anything? Do people actually like at some point hear what you've got to say and go, oh yeah, far out, I'm going to become a Christian, and I'm going to come in. So I wanted to just basically make a little buffet where I could go, okay, here's some people that have come in. Hopefully you can hear this story. Hopefully it'll be an encouragement to you. We get about 50% of our audience, or not our audience, sorry, our guests are actually in our church. And so it's cool for like people in our church to be able to just hear the stories of other people that they literally are in the church with. And then we do about 50% just other random people that I come into contact with. So yeah, that's the aim for it, man. Hopefully it's just an encouragement. Jesus is working. He's been working for 2,000 years, and he's saving people. And as the story goes on, there's all these little stories that are being made. And just to be able to capture a little bit of that, man, it's just the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, so awesome, man. We have a saying on the Jesus Magnet, which is your story could be the key to unlock somebody else's prison. Right. And I just find that kind of what you were saying, like people struggle to share their story sometimes, but they don't realize how much somebody needs to hear their story. And I don't care if you've got a story that's, you don't have to have died and resurrected or cancer
Right.
disappearing or anything like that. That's to be honest, that's a cool story, but it is one of the most unrelatable stories that people can hear, because
Sure.
not everybody's died and not everybody's had cancer and healed. So if you've got a story, what I find the most powerful stories or the most impactful stories for people to hear are just, you were lost and now
Mhm.
I'm found. I
Totally.
just didn't know where I was in the world, and now I've encountered Christ. And that is relatable to everyone. So
Absolutely.
I don't care if your story is, people see themselves as not having much of a story.
Yeah.
I always fight back on that. And I say, look, I'm not trying to get the best stories on this show. We're trying to
Yeah.
reach the most souls for Christ. And if your story is how once you were lost and now you're found, most people need to hear that. And
Absolutely.
all people need to hear that. And that's
Totally.
just one of those things. Like, good on you for doing your podcast. It's you've got the side of it, which is people that have grown outside of the church. Um, and yeah, there's a huge amount of stories there for sure. Um, what's one of your biggest like struggles with podcasting? Does it come out every week or once a month, or how does it work?
Yeah, that's the aim. Probably that is the struggle. Like I think I said in the first episode, like, look, I got other pastoral responsibilities, and so like if something comes up and I'm not able to do something that week, it just won't happen. So the caption I've got on this year's like art is like, comes out every Tuesday unless it doesn't, or something like that, just because it may not happen. So yeah, like that kind of thing. I think sometimes just meeting different people. Like for me, I'm in a season of life where it is difficult to meet stacks of people. Like I got 4 kids, married, and so like basically every day for me is almost the same. You know, I don't have a lot of spare time outside of what I do with the church. So it's not like I can be out and about to like every different gathering in the city and kind of connect with people. So sometimes that can be a little tricky. And then yeah, like you meet people who are, which is awesome. Like it's not a problem at all. But just people who are, they fit the criteria and they're just still working through stuff, you know. They're just like, oh, I'm not quite sure how to articulate that, and so like, you know, maybe in a little while, maybe in a couple of years down the track, that kind of thing. Yeah, like those sorts of things. Uh, but it's honestly, I'm fishing here. It's pretty hard to come up with negative stuff because or difficult stuff. Like it is super rewarding, even on days where I'm a bit tired and I'm just like, oh, okay, like man, don't know if I can be bothered firing all this gear up or whatever. And like you come to the end of the conversation, you just go, wow, that was awesome. I'm so glad I had that conversation. Praise God.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, we kind of operate the same way. I was quite intentional to try and get an episode out every week. I had about a
Yeah.
6-month break when my
Okay.
son was born. Um, but yeah, we have been tried to get consistent. Our secret is to try and get 10 episodes ahead before you
Okay.
release any. And then you've got this big buffer
Okay.
of, if you miss 1 or 2 weeks, a lot happens, then that happens, life happens. But
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you've got 2 or 3 people that are like, I'm really keen to come on the show. And that kind of makes up the 2 or 3 weeks. You can do them within the 1 week,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you're back up to par. So that was our secret. We just really
Okay.
made that buffer a big priority. I see episode 10 in the schedule as zero. So I don't like
Okay.
to go into in my mind it's going into the negatives.
Yeah.
And but then there's a sweet spot, because if you start to get to basically 20 episodes, people are waiting almost 6 months to get their testimony out, to get their
Right.
episode out. And it's too long.
Right.
So if we ever get close to 20 episodes, we actually need to take a break. We need to
Yeah.
focus on other things that the Jesus Magnet's doing, like social media things, or
Yeah.
connecting with other pastors or leaders or anything like that.
Mm.
So there's an interesting balance there where there's always something to do, but I can't
Yeah.
just focus on the podcasting all the time. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's not good for our guests. They're waiting too
Sure.
long till the episode to come out. But
Yeah.
then also I have to make sure that I can keep ahead. Otherwise, I can't relax personally. But I'm doing this full time. I don't have a
Right.
church to run, so it's a little different.
Yeah, dude. I thought it was awesome when you messaged me and told me you had Ray Comfort on. So when I started this, I was mainly, I mean, I try to get people that are connected to New Zealand. You know, I was like, I would love to talk to Ray Comfort, and then I reached out and they're like, sorry, he's full up at the moment. It's like, yeah, that's totally fair. Also, I'm a nobody. I have no episodes at this point. So it just cracked me up when I saw that he was in your feed. Like, man, this is just coming around full circle really nicely. Kudos to you for getting Ray Comfort on.
I honestly, I think he only said yes because I emphasized how much of a how much of a Kiwi I was, and said that, you know, I would love to talk to another Kiwi, and I told him I've read a few of his books and, you know, things like that. So
Cool.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure if you use the Kiwi card, you might get it.
That's it.
Yeah,
I'll have to go for another crack. But yeah, mad respect to you. And he'd probably only say similar things. I mean, no shade if you're listening, Ray. There's a good episode out there already. People can listen to your one on that. That's cool. I'm keen to I am wrestling through, like, as I said earlier, like I don't want to artificially limit it to people that like only had this kind of upbringing, because it's such a common theme to me, like, that I'm just seeing. I know a lot of people who also grew up in church, and for them to be seriously engaging with their faith now as an adult, for a lot of them, I don't know if like crisis moment is the right word, but there were these moments where they just had to work out, okay, like, what do I actually think, and what have I been told, and how does this fit together? And I don't want to say like they're walking with Jesus in spite of their upbringing, because that's not true. Like, they're standing on the shoulders of what their parents have given them a lot of the time. But it still wasn't just like I just inherited that and it was easy and simple and move on. Like, there's still a lot of really good there's a lot of good material. I hate to say material, you know what I mean? Like, there's good stories there, to be sure. Really, really encouraging stuff. So I don't know if I want to artificially limit it to that. But and to be honest, the other thing I'm kind of thinking through, like, I'm very much in a brainstorming stage of it at the moment, but I really would like to come up with some way to make this podcast like a little bit more portable, and to just like getting, getting out on a busy street somewhere where, a stack of people are going to be walking by, and just kind of like having conversations with people who are keen to talk about faith, and hopefully, people just stopping by and listening. I'm still just thinking through, like, logistically how to do that, but I think it would be really cool, like, both for just content
I
to
can
listen
tell you
to.
exactly how you could do that. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, you need the Rodecaster Pro Video, which is a pretty new device, and then you need one or two cameras, and it connects straight in, and it has something called an auto switch. So when you start to speak, the camera switches to that microphone and vice versa.
Yeah.
And basically it could be a one-man manned thing.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. You'll have to tell me more about that when I'm off air or something, because I would have questions. I'm super useless with tech, so that's cool, man.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, that's that kind of thing. Like, because I feel like there's, I don't know if you see this, but like, I see just there being, how do I, like, there's a lot of Christians, I think, who know their stuff pretty well and would be great. Like, they have a lot of important things to say. They'd be really good conversation partners, and people just struggle with platform in the most generic sense of that. I'm not meaning like a podcast or something. I'm just meaning like just general, like, areas where you can both be and then just talk freely about this kind of stuff. So I think that's just a question that a lot of us have on our minds. Like,
It's a clever
how am I
way to
gonna
do
meet
it.
people and talk these things through? And yeah, like, that's just one thing I have in my
because you
life.
could do the exact same thing without a podcast and stand on the corner and no one's going to talk to you. But if you got a microphone and a couple of cameras, people almost want to talk to you. And like, using, even if the cameras are off and the microphone's off, like, it's a prop, people would still they would still come and talk to you, just because it looks like they're getting interviewed. But if you're the crazy guy on the street, I think there's resistance there. So you could totally use, I've never thought of it like that. You could totally use the setup as whether you're recording or not, as just a way to be the icebreaker for people to what is it, like a change my mind sort of setup?
That kind of, yeah, like, yeah. And you see, obviously there's the big names that do that kind of thing. And like, obviously I wouldn't necessarily want to be as abrasive as some of those ones. But
Just don't ask me
I could do it
anything.
if I can. But yeah, just that's right. Like just
Yeah.
talking things through. And you know, I like what Ray Comfort says as well around just like have a Subway voucher or something just to show like it's in good faith. There you go. That kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm mulling that over at the moment. Summer's coming up here, and I'm like, okay, what could we do? I'm thinking it through.
So cool. All right. Well, let's do a final question before we wrap up. So, if somebody wants to connect with you, and they're like, I've got a story, what's the best way to connect with you, and what kind of stories particularly are you leaning towards for your podcast, so our listeners can be like, oh, I fit that?
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, so obviously you can find us on Spotify or any other kind of podcast platform. Fill Me In, a Redeemer Church podcast. So you can find us there just to sort of get a bit of a taste of sort of what we do. I mean, I could give you my email address for the show notes or whatever. Reach out to me that way. Otherwise, honestly, it's kind of unconventional, but I think we need to push more this way in the modern world. Come to my church. Come talk to me. I'll be hanging out. Redeemer Church Tauranga. Come say hi. And yeah, we'll have a chat. In terms of the kinds of people, like really, honestly, like if you grew up in not the classic, at this stage, just not the classic Christian upbringing, but you're a believer in Jesus Christ, you're walking with him, the kind of person who, you know, you're in church, you're reading the Bible, you want Jesus to be known in the world, that kind of person, I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Phil. This is Phil from the Fill Me In podcast. You've been a great guest. And I'm going to make sure, don't worry, there's going to be banners and all this stuff in the final cut. So people will be able to actually see and recognize, because this is a visual podcast as well, people will see and recognize what your show is. So thanks for coming on the show. It was great to have you. And hope you guys enjoyed this episode on the Jesus Magnet podcast. And we'll see you next time.